Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to be talking about 3 of the latest books that I've read. They're all very different, completely different genres, completely different topics, and yet all of them got 4 stars from me. So that's a really good rating. That's you know, a book that I would definitely recommend to other people, but just maybe not one that blew me away. It had that little sparkly magic, but all of which I would recommend. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is one that is continuation in a series, so it just means that I can't tell you as much about it. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that last month I started the Throne of Glass series with Janet from Swirly Girly Reads. We're reading it together, and we've decided we're going to read 1 book in the series a month, and so this month we decided to go for Crown of Midnight, and this is the 2nd book in the series, and I really enjoyed this. It was a page turner. I read it in a day, just like I did with Throne of Glass. There was one thing that bugged me a little bit from the beginning. We are told this whole premise of this story is that Selena Saldothian, our main character, she has been training as an assassin her whole life. She was rescued by like the head of the Assassin's Guild. He's trained her up to be the most lethal assassin, and that is sort of her history and backstory from the very moment we go into the 1st book. At the start of this book, we are made out, you know, she's said to be this assassin, she's amazing, she's wonderful, no one can beat her, and yet I felt like she acted a bit stupidly in parts of the beginning of this book, where she put herself in situations where it was quite obvious that she was going to get caught, and that she was going to have to end, you know, it just didn't feel like the girl used her common sense, and that frustrated me a little bit. I also had a small problem in this one with the relationships that we're finding being formed, and the way that the emotions, her emotions are felt very fickle at times, and some of the things I felt like were one of the biggest sort of catalysts for this emotional relationship drama. I didn't feel like it was warranted, and I felt like I don't know, I didn't agree with her decisions, and you know, she's a character. I don't have to agree with her decisions for her decisions to be her decisions. She's not me. But I found that one a little bit irksome and made me sort of not like her quite so much halfway through. She did manage to bring it back, thankfully, and I'm just gagging to read the next one. I'm really enjoying these, and I can't believe I've waited so long to pick them up. Okay, so the 2nd book that I read was Confessions of an Angry Girl by Louise Rosette. This was a book that I read during the Buzzword Readathon, which has taken place over the last week. It's got girl in the title, and if you want to know more about that, then you need to head over to Books and Lala's channel. I've actually got about 5 books with girl in, and they're on my TBR, and the readathon only took place between the 7th and the 13th. However, I think I'm going to continue it for the rest of the month, because I'm really enjoying and looking forward to the books that I've picked out. This is the story of Rose. She's a high school freshman, and she's just struggling. She's struggling to fit in a bit at high school, or feeling like she's fitting in, because a lot of her friends are you know, becoming obsessed with boys and sex and popularity, and she just doesn't see the point in it. She just can't be bothered with it all, and she finds the drama and her friends changing irritating. And so she's struggling a little bit there. She's also had her father die not long previous, which has caused some obviously grief for her, but some family sort of tension of sorts, or just, you know, trying to find how the family works without their father. And her brother's gone off to college, and so it's her and her mother. And I really liked the fact that there was this family in this. I liked the fact there was a strong family. I liked that she was a character that really stuck to her guns and just didn't get obsessed with all of the things that her friend did. And it wasn't like she got to the end and decided, oh, you know, I should be obsessed with these things too. She was just herself the whole time, and I really enjoyed that. I thought a lot of the things that happened were very realistic feeling, and weren't glorified, and certainly weren't portrayed in what I think is a wholly unrealistic light of how high school is for children. I went into this initially thinking it was going to be a bit of a generic high school story, and there was going to be heavy on the romance, and that we were just going to get this sort of general high school setting, but I did feel that this gave us a little bit more than that. I read it in one sitting. It's not a terribly long book. It was only sort of 260 pages, so it's really palatable to read in one sitting. There is 2 more. I think this is a trilogy, and I will definitely be reading on, and it left me feeling like there needed to be a next one, and so I looked it straight up, and there is a next one and a third, as I said, so I'm definitely going to be moving on, and it was a strong 4 stars. And then in a totally different vein, the third book that I've read recently is I Will Find You by Joanna Connors. This is a non-fiction book. In July 1984 in Cleveland, Ohio, Joanna was brutally raped. Joanna writes in a really readable way. She's a journalist by trade, and you can tell that she is a born writer. She writes in a way that's very palatable and easy for us to read along and understand her thought process. And I really liked how Joanna's book gave us an insight in more of the wider repercussions of rape. Not only was it obviously traumatizing for Joanna to go through this rape in the moment, but she lived with this, or is living with this, for the rest of her life. And it obviously has these repercussions on things that happen. After the rape, she goes on to have 2 children, and her bringing up of her children changes. She is constantly on the alert for dangers to her children, things that may not have worried her quite so much about things that her children were doing suddenly worry her. And it isn't until her children go off to college that she realises quite how much of an impact it's had on her. I thought it was scary how Joanna was forced to go to this man, the man who raped her. She was forced to go to his parole hearing and walk through the prison full of felons when she'd just been raped, and she was forced to go and sit in front of this man face to face with just another lawyer there and talk. I just thought that was very insensitive, and I can't believe that that is the law. She then had to go on and testify twice more. I felt extreme anger for Joanna. I can't believe that that was what she was forced to go through. Hadn't she been through enough? One of an interesting facts that I found out in the book, and I've made a note of it here, is I find it horrific that in 1780 BC a woman had to be a virgin to be raped, and if you were married your husband had to pardon you, and if you didn't, you would be bound and thrown in the river to drown with your rapist. Thank God times have changed. And what's more scary is it wasn't until the 12th century that it was even considered a forced sexual crime. I mean, that's just ludicrous. So the majority of this book looks at Joanna looking to write an article. As a journalist, she's interested, and she suddenly realises later on in life, this is, 20 odd years gone past, that she's interested in the backstory of her rapist. She wants to know why. She knows that the rapist went to jail, and she knows that he was caught for his crime, but what led him to that crime? What is his story? She wanted to find out those things, and so she starts delving into her rapist's backstory. She finds his family and she goes to talk to them, and she talks to them about his life and their life, which is tragic. And I felt like for someone that had been raped by one of their family members, I thought she dealt with it with extreme compassion and maturity, and I really enjoyed reading that part. I just thought, well done you, Joanna. Like, she was a much braver and better woman than possibly I would have been. I really enjoyed this, and Connors takes a really good look at our relationship and how our actions affect our relationships further down the line than just our childhood, and how the things that happen to us can then massively affect our futures. I found it fascinating and sad to see this chain of violence and the sexual misconduct that precedes this rapist committing this crime on Joanna. I definitely recommend this. I thought it was a really good read. I've got a few more reads, non-fiction reads, that I'm hoping to read soon, and I'm hoping that they will be as readable and as interesting and as thought-provoking as this was. So it was a really strong 4 stars. So that's 3 books that I've read recently and really enjoyed and given 4 stars. So I hope maybe I've convinced you to pick up one of them or all of them. Let me know if you do, or if you've already read them and you enjoyed them. I'll be back soon with some more reviews when I've read some more books, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.